There we go. So that is the sign that you will see on the way to camp. Welcome to historic Camp High Sierra, Boy Scouts of America. This is what you will see when you are turning off Highway 108. It is not the most gigantic sign, but hopefully you won't miss it. If you do, it's no problem at all because there's plenty of places to turn around on the way. The last time I took my GPS into camp, it took me straight to the dining hall. So there shouldn't be any problems. What you do want to pay attention to is that your GPS doesn't try to route you through Cold Springs, because sometimes GPSs think that that's quicker and it's not, because you won't be able to get through the very bottom. So it gets us on to the next slide. Oh, it's not.
Actually, Dylan, can you introduce yourself and put this into full screen? Put it into full screen also.
Into full screen. How it's not in full screen?
No, I'm seeing two different slides myself. I'm seeing the next slide and this side.
I have no idea what's going on there, but I'll try to fix it. Okay. I'll introduce myself. I'm Dylan Hendrickson. I'm the camping director, and I work with the folks who are going to be running summer camp this summer. Normally I'm better at tech things, but apparently I'm not so great at this. And let me turn it over to Bruce Lee, the camp director.
Evening, everybody. My name is Bruce. I am the camp director. I've been at High Sierra now, almost 30 years as a scoutmaster and things. This is my 9th year as camp director. And I think we have Nate, who is our program director.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nate, program director. This is gonna be my 3rd year of doing it at camp. We're not counting COVID year.
Yeah, we got to count COVID.
Yeah.
We put in all the work. And then a new addition to our management team is our assistant program director, Alex Parks. He's down there somewhere. There he is.
Hello, my name is Alex. I'm the assistant program director this upcoming summer, and it is going to be my 5th year on staff.
All right.
Yeah, let's see if I can go back to the slideshow.
That's better. Now we can just get it full screen. Hey.
Okay. Are we back? Are we good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so where are we? So we are located in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So we are up in the hills. The location is at 5,000 feet. At the very top of the camp road, you're at just about a mile. And what that means is at elevation, people go through water a lot more quickly than they normally would. And you're closer a little bit to the sun. So please, we will reiterate it all the time. The staff will carry water bottles around, and we'll reiterate it at flags, in merit badge sessions, but please make sure that people drink water. Bringing a snazzy water bottle that is marked as yours is a definite thumbs up. There are water bottle stations all around the dining hall and in various areas. Every campsite has a drinking fountain and a sink. So please make sure that people are filling their water bottles regularly and that they bring sunscreen. Mainly bring sunscreen if they're doing things out in the open spaces frequently. We have plenty of places in camp where they're going to be in the shade, but if they're doing stuff and they're active, they definitely want to make sure that they have sunscreen. Camp is accessible by bus. We will talk about the parking lot in a little bit, a lot more, but in general, camp is accessible by bus. But please carpool. There is a limited availability for parking in general. And we'll move on to the next slide. And this is a general map of camp. And so as you can see, the parking lot is this area here. There is some additional parking here. We do have areas that we mark as temporary parking versus long-term parking. Like all scout camps, we need people to back into the parking lots, and so that we need to conserve space. So that's the big warning that we have about the parking lots. The nice thing about the camp, as you can see, is that our program areas are flat and close. So most of our program areas are in this alley right here, and that goes along the river in the middle of camp. The one main difference is that the aquatics area is down here, and then the second main difference is that the rifle range and the shotgun range are up over here. So we're not shooting firearms near where we're doing other stuff. Then you'll notice that the campsites are all up above the program areas. And those campsites, as you cannot tell because there are no contour lines on the map, are in a hilly area of camp. And so it's not like you have to hike 10 to 15 minutes to get to your campsite. It should only take you about 5 or so to get to any of those campsites, depending on how quick you want to get to them. But they are up the hill. Someone. Oh. Okay, there we go. If you're not part of the presentation team right now, that would be great. Yeah, like I said, most of the program area is about 5 minutes apart. They are very close together and they're easy to get to. That's one of the very nice things about our camp. So if you are a parent or adult who is bringing youth there and you need to keep track of them because they might be younger, most of our places, the kids are easier to keep track of. Next slide. The weather at camp. So in the daytime, it's generally around the 80s. In the middle of the summer when it's getting super hot. It can sometimes be generally in the 90s throughout the day. And in the lows, it can get down to the 50s and the 40s in the evening. So in general there, it's going to be cooler in camp than it will be in the Bay Area, or especially if you're coming from LA, down in LA or in the Central Valley. It's going to be cooler in camp, but it can still be pretty warm. Why we emphasize water. But the big thing to take notice of there is the temperature difference. So it can be very cold in comparison to how warm it gets in the day. And so sometimes youth don't necessarily bring enough warm clothing for the evening. That's very important. And make sure that they are packing appropriate sleeping bags, that sort of thing. Another part about camp that I particularly enjoy, but also have a love-hate relationship with, is the dusty environment. And so we are a pine forest in the Sierras on top of granite. There's no way to get away from it. We have a very fine dust that makes up majority of our soil. And to me, it smells like chocolate, but to some other folks, maybe it's not the chocolate of the Sierras, but just make sure that your youth are showering on a regular basis. And hopefully that isn't too much of a problem. Just so everybody knows, we'll have a big question and answer period at the end. And that's one of the most fruitful elements of the meeting tonight. Okay, moving on to the next slide, I believe is Bruce.
Yeah, so we did talk about parking a little bit. This is an aerial view. You can see the cars there. We definitely have enough parking for 350 campers. That's if people carpool. As Dylan mentioned, we encourage buses also. If you are going to bring a bus to camp, please let us know that you're coming, because it is a narrow road coming into camp and we want to make sure that we have the road clear from Cisco or garbage trucks, as well as other small cars, to get the bus down and out and then back out of camp in an efficient way, because we know you're paying by the hour for those guys and we want to make it as easy on you as possible. So please let us know on that. We do have extra areas for dropping off. So we know some parents are just going to be coming up, dropping kids off and leaving. What we try to discourage is we've had some troops that every parent brings their own kid up. And when you bring in an extra 50 cars, we ended up on gridlock, because it's about a 5 mile drive from the highway down into camp, and it's 2 lanes. So it does get crowded. The one thing that we do require is no cars do cross the river. So once you park, all your gear then will be carried up to your campsite by you and your scouts. We do not allow cars to drive to the campsites themselves. That's a big one that we want to get across tonight. All right, next slide. Okay, this is me too. So I'm just going to cover some of the basic forms. This is nothing different. If you've been to any other Scouts BSA camp, we require the health form if you're staying over 72 hours. So parts A, B, and C. When you get to camp, one of the first things you'll do is go through our health lodge, and we'll have each of the scouts hold their own parts A, B, and C, and any other approval forms like for shotgun. Not sure yet what we're going to be doing on COVID. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And make sure that you have your immunization records in your Part C. If you do not have proof of tetanus and cannot get those within 24 hours of being at camp, then we have to send you back down into town to either get a tetanus shot for the scout or figure out something, but that rarely happens. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that up front, that you need to have all your immunization documented in your health form, signed by a doctor, and turned in. So David, I see there's some questions here. We'll get to the questions in a minute. David and Kimberly are kind of monitoring the questions, and then we'll come back to those when we're done with this slide. Last year we did a pre-screening we've done this for a couple of years actually. So you can turn your medical forms into the into this council office, and we will do a pre-screen to make sure that there's nothing missing. And then transport those health forms part A, B, and C to camp for you. You cannot, unfortunately, email them or fax them, but you could mail them to the council and just save some time on your check-in process. In terms of managing prescriptions, the troops are responsible for managing their own prescriptions for their scouts. We'll provide you with a locked medical box for each campsite, and then you'll manage the medicines. Now, if it is something that needs to be refrigerated, like insulin or things like that, we're more than happy to do that in the health lodge and dispense that in the health lodge. But day-to-day stuff, if it's just oral, we have the troops do that. All right, Kimberly, do we have any messages or questions we can address now?
We had one about bringing wagons, but I answered that in the chat. However, a few people have asked if these slides will be made available to them after the meeting.
Yes, so the slides will be made available along with the recording. We do have wagons to take things up. We encourage that you use ours. As Dylan mentioned, we are in the mountain valley. And we do have to be careful about taking stuff up on the wagons because the kids like to try to ride the wagons back down the hill, which is definitely not safe. You have this river in the middle that will come to a crashing halt. But we do have wagons available for people to move their gear up to camp. Any other questions?
That was everything from the chat.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? All right.
All right, that's me.
Yeah.
So once you arrive at camp and get dropped off, everyone's out of your vehicles, then we will have staff members that can meet your troop and help you check in. Those will be your troop guides. You'll get at least one assigned to your troop to help manage the check-in process, navigate all the different areas you want to check in with, make sure flow of traffic is fine, you're not waiting. So the first thing that they're going to have you do is have the Scoutmaster come into our office and check in your troop. So once we get your troop checked in, then anytime anyone that is checked in needs to leave camp, you would want to check out at the office. I think that's farther in the slides or something. Okay, once you get checked in there, then we need to have the troop go through the health lodge and get your medical forms looked at. We need to go to the dining hall to get the accurate number of scouts or campers to seat you all at tables, and then talk about any dietary restrictions. And then we also talk about the eating style. We do family style eating at camp. And I believe that's also in the slides.
Yep.
As well. Yeah. Okay. We do swim checks on the move-in day for any scouts that are taking merit badges that require a swim check. For anyone else, they are free to take a swim check any of the following days during the free swim time, which is in the afternoons. Fair warning, the water is very, very cold at camp. It is fresh snow melt coming down. So you want to be prepared for that. And if any scouts don't do too well in the cold water, they don't have to swim. That's okay. Because of the fact that our water is very cold, we only accept swim checks that are done at our camp. I just saw that in the chat. So that's what we want to look for, because if you do a swim check in the bay and then we go up to the cold water, it might not be the same result. Okay, and then we will get you moved into your campsites. Your troop guide will help you just do a quick check that you have all the amenities that you need, that you're stocked up on things like toilet paper, that you have a flag in your patrol box for being able to do your own flag ceremonies, and that none of the tents are damaged in a way that we don't know about. That way, when you check out, we can make sure that everything is the same. All right.
Wait, Dylan's finding the next slide. One thing that I forgot to mention is we like to have everybody gather at the top of the hill as they come into camp. So you come in as a troop, that you don't come in, one car here, one car there. It helps in terms of getting all your cars in the same parking area. And also if you need to get out during the week and things like that, it helps us facilitate that much easier. And we can make sure that we've got everybody before we start down the hill. All right, this is back to me. So we do have Wi-Fi in camp. Everybody will be, all the adults will be given a Wi-Fi code. The code is good for a block of Wi-Fi. So basically, once you use up so many megabytes worth of data, then you can purchase more, but we give you a starter bunch of data. Each year that gets changed, so otherwise I would tell you what it is, but I really don't know. But we do have Starlink, so it is quite a fast network. A lot of people actually do even phone calls over it. But it is a satellite network, so we are limited on how much that we have. We have 2 shower houses, one on the north and one at the south side of the camp. And each one of those has individual stalls. So all of our bathrooms, showers, everything around camp are all individually labeled. So there's not a male or female, it's just a shower building or a bathroom. At our dining hall, we also have 3 showers and 10 toilets there. The showers are available for the adults, not the youth, because they're shared with our staff. But the adults are more than welcome to use those showers also. And then we also have those bathrooms down there that everybody's allowed to use. We do have a trading post, which has snacks, souvenirs, your basic things that trading posts have. There are access to wash machines and dryers if it's for emergency use. We don't offer those under normal circumstances, but we understand accidents do happen and sometimes you do need them. So please just come to us and let us know. We do have a health officer on duty 24 hours and a brand new lodge. You may have seen some of our pictures. We've put about $10 million into camp over the last 8 years. So most of our buildings are brand new on that side of the river. So brand new health lodge, and there'll be somebody there 24/7. Also, there's coffee available 24/7, which is also very important. We have charging stations. They're little 1 by 1 or 12-inch by 12-inch cubbies over by the trading post. And these are for adults to store anything they want in them. They also have electricity in there, so they can you can charge your own devices. There is no electricity in the campsites. So if you have like a CPAP machine, you're going to need a battery for it. And this is the place, one of the places you can charge your battery for your CPAP. People can bring their own tents if they want to the campsite. I saw that kind of come up by there. But it is, some areas are kind of rocky, so there is limited flat space besides where the tents are today to use, but that is a possibility. And then we have our adult education program, which gives you the outdoor leader skills, Scoutmaster fundamentals and specifics. So, all right, next slide, please. We were talking about the dining hall a little bit. Here's a picture of our new dining hall that we opened.
Wow, pretty.
Yeah. We do have seating both inside and outside, so just depending on how many people there are your week, if we have to seat some people outside. We do eat family style. Oh, we're gonna get into that right away, yes. So we eat family style, so there's 11 people at a table. One person is a steward from your troop. That can be a scout or an adult. And they will come to the window and get all the silverware and all the utensils for eating. Then they would go and get all the food, and they'd be responsible for replenishing the food on the tables. Every meal, we do have a vegetarian option. And if there are any other special dietary restrictions, please let me know. We'll put the camp email into the chat. If you could put the 19chs at Gmail, 19chs49. And if you could contact us a week before, so we make sure we have everything that you need for any dietary restrictions. We also have refrigerators and microwaves that you can store stuff in. So we have areas so you can store your own food. We do recommend, and we'll probably get into this in a little bit, is there are no food allowed in camp. We do have bears in the area, and they will come munch on your food. So we do not want that. We want to keep them away and eating the garbage cans of the areas around us. So, all right, I think I covered all that in kind of a weird order, but.
I don't think I've ever seen snow last till camp at our property, so I don't.
Yeah, the latest was probably 2019. It lasted until the first week of June, but it snowed Memorial Day weekend and then lasted a little bit after that. But this is a strange year, so.
Our dining hall is peanut free, Bruce?
Yes, it is. Any other questions in the chat that I didn't see pop by?
I've been catching them all as they come up. There hasn't been anything I couldn't answer.
Okay. So
I didn't see an answer to my question about adults doing swim check Sunday versus other days.
Yeah, so there are other days that you can do swim checks. I think the big thing on swim checks we want to enforce is we're not forcing everybody to do it. Some camps, and our camp used to be one of those, is it was mandatory that everybody did a swim check, and now it's definitely optional, and it's up to the troop. Depending on how crowded we are, we will prioritize people in aquatics merit badges or those type of merit badges first, because they need those to get their merit badges. So we'll go for that. But during free swim, we can definitely do swim checks later in the week. And hi, Sam.
Hi, Bruce.
All right. Anything else pop up while I'm babbling? We'll talk about the tents and that stuff in a second. Okay. Why don't you go to the next slide, Dylan?
Campsites. Which is me. So here we go. We're talking about the various campsites in camp. Each campsite has canvas tents on wood platforms. So we don't provide any sleeping materials. That includes cots. There are a small number of cots that are available for rent through the office. My main suggestion on cots, and the reason we got rid of cots when we had them 30 years ago, is because they make the sleeping conditions colder. So if you're sleeping on a cot, there's a nice alley of wind to go underneath you. We were finding a lot of the younger kids were getting very, very cold because they were insisting on sleeping on the cot versus on the floor. So depending on your materials and everything like that, it's probably better to sleep on the wooden platform of the tent. Each campsite has access to 2 flushing toilets. They are in their own latrine area. These are each of the full campsites. So we do have some units that are tented in extension sites that are grouped with another campsite. They know their troop partners. A lot of the times this is a girl troop and a boy troop, and they will be sharing one bathroom between those 2 units, and they know about that. So moving on, access to a hand washing station, water fountain, and hose in every site. Every site also has a flagpole and a flag, so you can conduct your own unit ceremonies in the morning or in the evenings if you wish to. Every site has a picnic table with a rain fly. Lots of card games have been had at those picnic tables over time, let me assure you. And then there is a campfire ring with a broom, a shovel, and a rake as fire tools. Please do not use the broom as a fire tool, but use it in the latrine to sweep out the latrine or your tents and that sort of thing. So that's what we've got at the various campsites. There's a little bit more as well, which is we have a patrol box for storing the flag and all the refillable supplies in the campsites. This will be your toilet paper, your soap, your urinal cakes, your feminine hygiene supplies, and so forth. The commissioners are the volunteers who are camp experts that not only do they go around and check in with your unit, make sure that you're doing okay, they kind of talk you through the week at camp a little bit. If you need some advice on things here or there, they're great people to tap if you need help for board to review, but they also bring your toilet paper to you, as well as other renewable supplies, or they can point you in the right direction if you really need something in an emergency. They also come by and check things like on your bulletin board that you have your fire chart and your duty roster filled out. Quick question in the tent, it's 2 people per tent and potentially 3. So our sites are judged at 2 to 3 people per tent. I like to make sure that we really only count the 3 people per tent if they're small. And on the note of tenting next to or in your campsite and bringing additional tents, adults are welcome to bring their own tent as well and set it up in the campsite if they can find space, if they really don't want to share a tent with another adult, because the kids are more into that than the adults most of the time. Moving down, no electricity. There is no electricity in any of our campsites currently, so you will need to bring charging devices for things like CPAP. If you have a CPAP machine, you need to bring a portable CPAP machine, but we do provide charging stations with lock boxes at the training post. You can pick up the keys at the office. There are no provided cots. We talked about that already. And then no food in the campsites and no bear boxes in camp. So if you're going to bring food into camp and you want to do a unit camping experience with food or something like that, we do have areas with picnic tables on the near side of the river where we do allow food. We have some areas where you could cook. You can cook near the barbecue. And then once again, you can take it to the overhang areas where the picnic tables are. But we do not allow food on the far side of the river, i.e. in any of the campsites. And that is to mainly detract bears from the area or from coming into camp. So every once in a while, we'll get a curious bear. They come in, they check out the dumpster, and they leave. We do not want to give them a reason to stick around in camp. It does not happen very often. It normally doesn't even happen every year, but we definitely want to avoid that. You can indeed bring watermelon to store in the dining hall, but only if you share some watermelon with Bruce and me.
So one other thing about the campsites, we had been in a severe drought up at High Sierra, in the Sierras in general, or California in general, and we were only allowing fires some weeks, and then on those weeks we're only allowing them once during the week on Wednesday nights. I'm hoping with all the snowpack that we have this year, it's going to be much better and things may open up, but it's basically controlled by CAL FIRE and what the fire restrictions are up in the mountains where we're at. So just a warning on that. All right, next slide.
This is neat to talk about the Saga of High Sierra.
Yeah, that's to me again. So out of all the activities that we have at camp and all the merit badges that your scouts can sign up for, we also have an activity that is open to everybody, and that is the Saga of High Sierra. This is our camp's service organization. Other camps may have similar ones, and if scouts from your troop have earned ranks in those ones, then we do our best to carry them over to ours.
Can I add the other ranks? Like if I have remote rank, add those
Actually,
together?
hey Jeff,
Yeah, I think so.
could I get you to mute? Hey Jeff, could I get you to mute?
It's so powerful. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so our service organization is focusing on the stories that we create as we journey through camp. And it's a way to remember and recognize all of the new things that people can try at our camp. And those are recognized by earning beads. pony beads, different colors represent different things. So you would get a blue one for doing your swim check. You would get a red one for performing a campfire skit, so on and so forth. And many of them can be earned by doing skills of the day, which are small activities put on by each of our program areas. So throwing tomahawks at the tomahawk range, or by yelling while rappelling at the climbing tower. They're all just like little ways to get people into the camp spirit. But with it, there are certain requirements for earning ranks in the Saga. So these will be things like doing service projects or exemplifying different points of the Scout Law that you go through a small little board of review about to get those signed off. And we have 4 main ranks. So Seeker is your first year of your first week at camp. Guardian is for scouts that are returning to camp and getting a bit more into it. Trailblazers are for those that are starting to become leaders. And then Legends are ones that are leading others at camp and taking charge of a larger service project. So those are 4th year returning is the general trend. Great Legend are those that have done exemplary service, so staff members or adult leaders that have come back year after year and are recognized by that. And like I said before, we do our best to transfer ranks over if you've done similar programs at other camps. There is a bit of a ceremony to go with it at the Friday night closing campfire, where if you have earned ranks, then you get to join all others that have and go through a ceremony. That is open to everybody, but we encourage people to go through the process to be able to have something a little special to remember.
Okay, here we go. Check out. So now you've had your great week of camp. You want to make sure that you don't forget anything. We'll make sure to give you a printout of Scout achievements. Will be available Friday night. We are a blue cardless camp, so you will not get blue cards from us, but you can print if you really want to, and several units do this. You can get blue cards through the Tentaroo system. So through our registration system, you can get PDFs of the blue cards. If you can't figure out how to do that, you can always email me and ask. And then we're going to keep going. You sign up in camp for the best rate for the next year and to secure your preferred campsite. So the lowest rate that you can get for the next summer is when you sign up in camp. And of course, that's the best way to get your preferred campsite. There's a lot of campsites that people prefer for their troop for one reason or another. Maybe you've put some service into it. Maybe you really like the view that Hopi has, or you like the rocks that are in Miwok, or you like Blackfoot because everyone loves Blackfoot. If for one reason or another, our campsites are fun because each one is unique. And then you will be having your troop guide and your commissioner. They'll check you out on Saturday morning. So they'll do your campsite checkout. They'll make sure that everything is okay. They'll walk down with you to the office and they'll make sure to check you out at the office. They'll make sure to check you out in the health lodge as well. You definitely want to get your health forms before you leave because we know those are important and probably a lot of them to keep track of. And we don't want to have to put those all in the shred bin like every once in a while when people leave them and they don't want to get them mailed back to them for whatever reason. So we want to make sure that you walk away with all of the important documents, and when we get you checked out, that everything's great. There is a lost and found. I'm going to touch on it briefly, where not only is there lost and found for the week, because we expect that people will lose things, I bring the lost and found down to our office every week, and important items, especially for units that are not close to camp, we make sure to work with you to get those back to you. So last year we got several unit flags that were left back to units. It's great that you bring your unit flags to the flag ceremony, but a lot of the times people leave them at the door of the dining hall and forget to snag them, especially on that last evening for some reason. So we'll make sure to get you your lost and found items back, but it's a lot easier to snag it before you go. There's a lot of questions. So many, but there was one that was really easy to answer that I saw. The merit badge signups will be available in the first or the second week of May is when that goes live. We try to get our merit badge list available by April 1st. And so those are kind of deadlines that we keep to. We're in the process of hiring our staff right now. Nate and Bruce and I did a long couple of days of interviewing people, and Bruce and Nate have been sending out offers to people. So we're assembling the team. Once we've assembled the team, we'll know what the merit badge schedule looks like. But we do have a pretty good idea. If you pop onto the resources section of our website, you'll be able to see 2022's program guide and merit badge schedule. Those will give you a rough idea of what this year's will look like. We are looking to add a few things and to change a few things here or there, but for the most part, things will stay relatively stable. We are tweaking the leader's guide as well. We shoot for no later than April 1st on the leader's guide also, but really we try to get it out. Bruce, when do we try to get the leader's guide out by?
Before April 1st.
Yeah,
And actually the merit badge is more like April 15th.
yeah, there you go. That's about right. And so, you know, we're working on all of that and it'll come out soon, but the leader's guide for last year is up there. The main things that change for the leader's guide from one year to the next are incidental pricing for things like we finally updated the price on early arrival, which we had static for something like 10, 15 years. We've updated, you know, to make sure that things are up to date for the current year, but a lot of the advice, a lot of the timeline stuff stays the same in the leader's guide. I'd imagine, right, Bruce? I don't want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on the slide so we can answer all these questions at the end when we're answering questions. And I believe the next slide is Bruce's slide. Here we go.
All right. So let's see, additional resources. So we do have some leader meetings coming up on the 10th and 11th. These are now focused for what to expect at camp in terms of merit badges. We'll talk about the merit badge sign up, what you need to do to sign up for merit badges and how that works. This program tonight was focused on people that have never been to High Sierra. We found that some people didn't realize that we're in the Sierras. Funny, it's in our name, but that we're not totally on flat ground, that we are in the mountains, that we're at 5,000 feet. So we wanted to make sure that people that hadn't been to High Sierra understood these things, and we didn't want to catch people off guard. So that's why this, one of the good things that came out of the pandemic is we started having these Zoom meetings, and we found that we could have these extra ones that we could address these type of issues. Also, like we talked about, meeting at the top of the road to gather all the cars together. That was a pandemic type of response, and then we found that actually works better to get all the cars together. So there has been some good things that have come out of that. So by mid-March, the leader's guide should be out, and if anybody is interested and is in the neighborhood, we'd be more than happy to have you go through camp and see it, check it out. And also on our website, we have quite a few videos and stuff like that you can look at to get a better feel for camp. The 19 CHS 49 email, that's always monitored. So if you want to email that one, or camping@svmbc, if you have any questions as we go forward, you're definitely more than welcome to send an email and we'll get back to you. In terms of COVID, we're hoping we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train coming our way. We have secured testing for this summer, so we may test all the campers like the middle Tuesday, Wednesday of the week. What we found last week is we would have people go to birthday parties on Saturday, leave for camp on Sunday, and by Tuesday they would end up with COVID. Also, I don't know how hard I can emphasize this, but we had somebody last year that was coming from Southern California, or southern part of the state, I should say. And their whole family had COVID, but the one kid did not. So parents put him on the bus with the rest of the troop. And he ended up testing positive by the time he got to camp. And that just rippled through our staff. We ended up having 30% of our staff come down with COVID during the summer last year. But we were able to keep that from affecting our program, luckily.
Yeah, we were able to keep it away from affecting the campers. So
Yeah.
we only had a total of 78 cases for all of the summer, and that's counting a population of 1,500 people. So we had a very low case rate overall. It just, once it got into our staff, it affected them significantly. We want to make sure to avoid that and protect everyone who's involved, campers, volunteers, staff, everybody involved. It's very important to us. We are still working with our health and safety committee to make sure that we figure out what the policy is going to be. It will probably be more lax than last summer because that's the way the world is pointing and the world is working. But last summer's policy was that we wanted everyone to test before coming to camp. And if you didn't vaccinate, we needed proof of that test. That's for the events that happened afterwards. And we'll probably keep to something like that for this summer. There's also a form that we ask people to fill out that says, hey, yeah, if someone comes down with COVID during camp, or if they have COVID, that we will come and pick them up and we'll bring them back home. We hope that that's a relatively understood policy at this point, that if someone gets sick, that someone will pick them up and take them to a place of care at home. But maybe we still have that form. We just don't know. We're going to work with our volunteers who are experts in that field to figure it out and have the council physician make a call.
So the key to that form was not just that, if you has a sick scout, you need to pick them up. It's in a timely manner. We're
Yeah.
just not staffed and set up to house sick people for any period of time. So it is a very quick turnaround if somebody is sick that we need to get them back to their home and out of camp, so we don't affect anybody else in camp and their time out there. Dylan will publish refund policies for COVID and other medical issues later on also. So why don't we get to, I think the next slide is questions. Yes. So Kimberly, are there any questions in the?
The only question that I haven't been able to get to yet is, can we bring aquatic equipment for adults to enjoy, such as inflatables?
Yes, you may.
And adults are
other-
welcome to go and volunteer and help out at our Pinecrest sailing program. And there's plenty of fun stuff that you can bring and use at that lake as well.
Otherwise, all other questions have pretty much been answered. There was a question asking about how many people in camp on average. I've said historically we're at about 300, but it can vary. I don't have this year's numbers. So Bruce, if you want to address that.
You hit it right on the money. 350 is our average week size. So.
And what accommodations does camp make for scouts with ADHD, autism, etc.?
So our staff, we do a training with our staff about how we can make it reasonable accommodations at camp, and we do our best to do what we can in general. When it comes to merit badges in particular, we follow the national rules of the specific accommodations that can be made, or we do our best to spend reasonable amounts of time to help scouts get to where they need to complete the requirements as listed.
There have been some questions. Oh, sorry, Bruce, go
Can
ahead.
I follow up on that one? If there is
Oh, yeah.
anything special, please feel free to reach out to the merit badge counselor or Nate and set up special requirements. I know I have a boy from my troop. I'm also a scoutmaster that has Down syndrome, and the staff is always very receptive to working with that young man. And just long as they know what what needs that person has, they're more than willing to help with that.
There's been some questions about adults splitting the week. So I have answered that it is completely fine to do that. The check-in and check-out needs to occur both at the office and in the health lodge. But there is a question regarding the cost. Are those adults prorated, or do they work that out among themselves, pay full, and then they figure out the halvesies at home?
Yeah, so we treat you as a unit registration, and we count an adult sharing a week with another adult as one adult registration. We register both, and we give one of them a refund. And so you just need to make sure that you let us know, hey, these two adults are splitting the week. We don't do prorated on a person only showing up for half the week and not splitting the rate with the week with another adult as supervision, because normally then they're just showing up for a couple of days because that's what they want to spend at camp. So we do treat those situations a little bit differently. To answer Todd's question, and this is something I was noticing, please make sure that if anyone has ADHD or they're autistic or they have learning disabilities for any reason or a physical disability, that you work with your council to provide the documentation that is needed to check them as special needs within the system. And then that working with your council waives specific requirements based on marking them that way within the system. That's not something we can do as an out of council body. So if you have a youth that has, let's take Bruce's example, Down syndrome, they may have special requirements waived or merit badges waived because of their disability. But that's something that they work out with their council registrar and with their registration based on their doctor's recommendations with us and then with national. That's not something that the camp can do. What we can do is provide the best staff service possible, like Nate was talking about, a lot of time, making sure to let the staff know so they can provide special attention. There are specific things that we can do that are already spelled out within merit badge requirements. But what we can't do is modify requirements unless it's stated within the advancement structure. That's something that can only be done once you get that marking done within. And I will take any more questions about this offline as an executive. Please feel free to email me or call me. This is something that we've done a lot of, and we have a whole troop that formed last year that we've been working with, who has these sorts of has these sorts of things to work with.
So just one more thing to close on that. If you are within our council, please talk to your your advancement director for your district, and they'll be more than happy to work with you. And they're the ones that are going to actually say what requirements can be waived or changed because of the disability.
There's a question here that I'll take about medical forms. We do not accept them by email or fax, but we do prefer that you send them into our council office in advance. This way they can be looked over and vetted. And if there's anything major that's missing, we can let you know before we arrive at camp and prevent having to send you back down the hill or have to try and contact a parent and get information set up. So that is the preferred thing.
2 Thursdays.
Bruce, are we still going 2 Thursdays in advance minimum for those forms?
Yes.
And there was a question, is there going to be more information about Tentaroo? Will it be in the leader's guide or will there be a training presented?
Right. So those 2 meetings I talked about, if you can go back a slide, Dylan. The April 10th and the May 11th, that's one of the main things that we'll cover in those meetings is how to run Tentaroo. We'll do some examples. We'll bring Tentaroo up. We'll have our Tentaroo specialists be on the meeting. So we will spend a lot of time on Tentaroo during that. But again, you can email us at those email addresses and we can handle any questions as they come up also.
Tentrue is the software that we use to log everyone's achievements for merit badges throughout the week.
Some councils
and then it gives a report at the end. If either of you want to answer that one more.
Some councils use Black Pug or other things like that. It's our reservation system software. So if you happen to want to rent cabins so you can go skiing, you'd be booking a reservation in Tentaroo, but we use it to manage the summer camp operations. A quick update on Tentaroo for people who are used to using it. Now they will finally allow scout book uploads. So at the end of your week of camp, you'll get an upload, ideally, that allows you to upload all of the achievements that your scouts have earned straight into Scout Book. Okay, other questions?
But at this point, if anybody wants to just unmute and ask a question, why don't we turn off the screen sharing and we can just take any questions live as we have them.
Go. Oh. I dig it. We might have answered everything. I'm gonna stop the recording so that if people really. Where's the recording? Aha.